All right, guys. I guess this is going to be a somewhat regular occurrence on this channel until the YouTube gods strike me down. But I'm going to actually talk about this incident with at a Brooklyn Center with Daunte Wright, and I'm seeing a lot of really bad takes from people on the left, people on the right. A lot of it is nonsense. A lot of people don't have the facts of it, but even people who have the facts don't understand some fundamental things of essentially what went wrong here. And I'm seeing people dunk on this officer, saying, how could you possibly confuse your gun for your taser, and so on, so and so on. And I've seen people say basically both extremes of how this has never happened before. So clearly, this is either this person's a moron or they intended to murder them. And then I've also heard, which is not true because this has happened many times. And then I've heard people say that this is the excuse police officers use when they shoot somebody or something. That's also not true. Both of those perspectives are wildly skewed and just inaccurate. People are talking out of their ass. A lot of people, even Styx Hexenhammer, he did a video this morning and he was criticizing this officer for being stupid. And no, I'm sorry, Styx. You are 100% wrong on this, and I think this video hopefully will explain exactly what's going on here to people who maybe don't think about it in a more I don't say nuanced way, but in a more of a actual the physical altercation, what's actually occurring here. So first, I'll play the video in the little window here so you guys can see the first person body cam footage of the female officer, who's apparently a 23 or 27-year veteran of the force. I forget which one. And they've conducted a traffic stop. We don't know the context. What we do know is that this gentleman had a warrant, this Daunte Wright, and they now had to arrest him because they figured out who he was, and warrant popped up, and now it's their duty to actually arrest him because, that's what a warrant means. The guy resists arrest. He basically makes it very difficult. He gets away from this officer here, and there's a struggle that follows. In the struggle, you'll see pretty much what happens. Now, there's a point where the audio cuts out, and I will explain what's happening there, and I believe they cut it for language, which is really stupid because it actually eliminates some kind of, I'd say, rather important context of what's actually happening. So let's take a minute to watch this, and then I'll show you, I'll talk to you and tell you basically what's going on here, because I think some people are just completely clueless as to why this happened or how this could happen. Okay, what did we just see there? Well, let's get this not to give CNN any more views. The part where the audio cuts out, what is exactly happening? I have seen the original video, but of course I can't track it down now because CNN and all these other basically fake news outlets are just dominating the coverage. They'd much rather give you a report on what's on what they want to explain what's going on, rather than actually just show you the minute and 30 seconds of footage, or really it's 60 seconds of footage, to actually see what occurred. And what happens there during that period of silence, there's some cursing, but she yells out. She says, first you can hear her say, "I'll tase you," and then she says, "Taser, taser, taser." She's calling that because what she's now calling for the other officer to do is to step back for a moment. The reason for that is you shoot the taser out, the nodes go into the suspect, and guess what? If you're a part of that, you might very well get your ass electrocuted too. And if you're stunned more than the other guy, for instance, I guess, just because electricity does weird stuff, now we have a huge problem. So you don't want to be tasing a guy when typically when holding on to the suspect. It does happen. I've seen it, especially when people are right on top of them. They try to tase them. There is a chance that it will transfer into you. But the point is, she's yelling taser, taser, taser. That's why that officer backs up for a second. There's a gunshot, and the guy speeds away. And he later died to his wounds because, he got shot at point-blank range and was fleeing the police, so it wasn't like he was going to get medical attention in a timely manner. Now, a lot of people are saying, how do you do somebody who's a veteran cop, unless they're either a moron or malicious, accidentally shoot somebody, confuse their gun for their taser? Well, it's actually very simple, and it's very, very stupid that I think that people, or I should say, it's so simple, stupid, that I think people are completely overlooking what's happening here. This is an X26 taser. This is pretty much standard law enforcement point-and-shoot tasers. The reason why it's adopted is because it has an identical battery of arms to a handgun. Almost identical. You got to deal with the safety. Obviously, you have to. The reload is different. But in the heat of the moment, whenever you need to hit somebody with a taser and you need to not miss, this is the easiest way to possibly do it, is to have something that's basically shaped like a gun. Because, guns point, and guns are shaped a certain way for a reason. And the same exact reason this taser is shaped the way it is. Now, the argument within basically law enforcement who have adopted this style taser is that the benefits of having basically reliable, easy to use, non-lethal, far outweigh the disadvantage of the fact that it has a similar battery of arms to a pistol, and the odds of these things happening are low enough where basically the taser, by the officer having a effective and accurate, and also just having this on them, that this has saved far more lives than it has taken by being similar to a handgun. I can't really argue with that. I think that's a perfectly logical argument. But that's why this type of taser is still as popular as it is, because it saves more lives than it takes by getting confused, basically confusing a gun for it. No, that's not the first time that's happened. No, but people have gotten shot before when the police officer thought they had their taser out. It does happen. And it happens because you're in a physical altercation at close range with somebody. And all you got to do is pull the trigger on the taser. All you got to do is pull trigger on your gun, and the gun goes bang. It's the same battery of arms in the heat of the moment. And that's what happened here. You guys ever play, I don't know if my foreign viewers had this, but everybody, at least in the United States as a kid, remember that little electronic game called Bop It? It was Bop It, Twist It, Pull It. And to explain what happens in that game, and trust me, there's a point for this, is that basically the thing tells you Bop It, Twist It, Pull It. It tells you these different commands, and then you have a certain amount of time to hit Bop It, hit the button, twist it, twist the thing, pull it, pull the little loop thing. Sounds simple. It's actually really challenging. And the way it gets challenging is it keeps getting faster and faster and faster, and then you're under stress. Most of the time when people fail, they do not fail because they don't hit the thing in the time limit. That's not the reason why you fail playing Bop It 99% of the time. The reason you fail playing Bop It is because it says twist it and you bopped it. Or it says bop it and you pulled it. That you fail the game. You lose whatever your streak is. And it's basically the game is how many times can you do this in a row. Now, if you've got a pistol and a taser that are both pull out, point at the suspect, and pull the trigger, and you do that under stress, it's like playing Bop It and being expected to get it 100% while in a physical altercation with somebody. It's not happening. It's just it's going to be a mess, and that's kind of what has happened in this case. Or I should say, it's the extreme version of that, where it's real life. You've got basically a taser, a handgun. They have a very, very, very similar battery of arms where you point in a certain way and you pull the trigger and then it goes off, right? And this officer who was in the altercation pulled the trigger on her gun and didn't pull her taser out. Are there ways around this? Yeah, you could train the officers to use the taser always pull the trigger at the taser with their non-dominant hand. That's one way to get around it. Is that ideal? Probably not. because sometimes you need to actually use your non-dominant hand use your handgun because your dominant hand is broken or something happened or cut, or you just have to shoot with your other hand. But that might alleviate some of these things occurring. The other solution, which I find much more compelling, is shape change. This is a classic Star Trek phaser toy. Point being is you could configure a taser to be exactly like this, where the button to shoot, which in this case would be up here, where the taser block would be, is a thumb trigger. So you point it like a remote control, and you push the thumb trigger, shoots out, and then that does the tasing. I think that's a good solution. I think that's what I would prefer if I was a police officer, because I'm not a super coordinated guy, and the idea of that mistake popping up, like having my gun out instead of my taser and shooting somebody, that kind of terrifies me. Now, maybe that would make me more conscious of it, but at the same time, I'd like to not even worry about it, where if I'm trying to tase somebody and I have my gun out and I'm pushing my thumb on the gun, on the top, on the rail, because I'm panicking, or I just don't realize that I'm not holding what I think I'm holding, nothing happens. The gun does not go bang. I then have a second to then go, oh, holy shit, I had my gun out still, and then switch to the taser. Same way with the other way around. Now, the argument is, because this has happened one direction, where the person thinks they have their taser out and then they actually have their gun out, it surely has happened the other way around, where the person had their taser out and then the situation got to a point where they actually needed a gun. And if they pull the trigger on the taser and they hit the guy, that might actually save their life when they actually should be having their gun out. Because at least when you pull the trigger, when you absolutely need to, something happens, whether it's a bang or it's a nodes shooting out. It's the same motion, trigger pull, you're dispatching the suspect in one way or the other. And it resolves the problem pretty quickly. Counterpoint to that being, well, you're going to have incidents like this where there's a mistake and somebody gets shot. Is this gentleman with the warrant worth writing over? No, of course not. It's all being used for political reasons. That's the whole. That could be a whole other video. But the takes I'm hearing on this officer, where they're saying she's dumb, I can't believe she was a trainer. How do you confuse your taser with your gun? Or the opposite being, cops do this deliberately, and this is just an excuse to kill people, because they. It's none of that. It's called being a police officer is hard, and being under stress when you're a police officer is also hard. And human beings have muscle memory, and sometimes they make mistakes. It's why you don't eat while you're doing something else. Preparing something like food or paint. You don't eat and paint at the same time, because one of those times you're going to stick the paintbrush in your mouth and put your fork on what you're trying to do. That's human nature. We are wired that way. And imagine how much worse that gets in a stressful situation. That's exactly what we just saw in this video. So I hope this clears up some of these misconceptions. One, this has happened before. Two, no, they don't have a good solution for it. Three, the argument is that this thing has saved far, far more lives because it's given officers non-lethal alternatives than it has taken, which is true. And they don't want to train the battery of arms because that further complicates the training. Is that good? Is that bad? Discussion. That is a discussion. That's not a definitive thing. But it's not. This officer was stupid. This officer was irresponsible. This officer was poorly trained. This officer had reckless disregard for the suspect's life. No, none of that can be inferred from watching this video. The only thing that could be inferred is that, one, it was accidental. Two, it was not racially motivated because the other officers who were there were black. And this guy didn't want to cooperate with a black officer either. So, he probably doesn't care about the race either way. He just wants to get away because he's got a warrant. And he realizes that, there's a lot of tension in the country right now, and they're probably not going to shoot him. Of which the intention was not to shoot him. And he's going to try to just speed away. He got shot. You know how he could have avoided getting shot? He could have just surrendered to the police normally and accepted the fact there was a warrant out for his arrest. If I was, if there was a warrant out for my arrest, and for some reason I thought that they weren't going to take me in, it was going to be unjustified, right? And then this happens to me. Am I mad at the police? No, of course not, because I'm the one who escalated the situation to get myself in that position in the first place. It's like, getting into a fight with somebody and they accidentally break your leg or something, and you go, this wasn't supposed to be that big of a deal, right? It was just a prank, bro, or something like that, and then you get hurt because somebody else made a mistake. Well, you're the one who put them in the position where they were actually could have made that mistake. It's ultimately the responsibility falls on this guy. I'm sorry. I know people don't like to hear that, but if I am this man, I am responsible for how worked up these cops get. They literally have his hands behind his back. The officer has one cuff on him. They are being very gentle with him. And he pleads with the guy, if you can hear in the audio, don't do this. Please don't fight, because this is going to cause a problem. And yeah, did he deserve to get shot for fighting with the cops? No, probably not. That's not a lethal offense. It did seem like he was just trying to get away. He wasn't actually trying to kill any of the officers or do anything like that. But I can't feel bad when you've put this cop, this poor woman cop, in this situation, and she makes a mistake and you get shot, and then we're supposed to somehow feel bad for you. No, I don't. It's called part of life. It's you put these officers in this situation and they made the mistake they made. I can't get behind crucifying this officer who should not have been in this situation in the first place. But that's my 2 cents. Maybe some of you guys are feel completely differently. That's fine. But I hope at this point you understand it's not stupidity, it's not maliciousness, it's battery of arms. That is what's going on here. All right? Battery of arms for the taser is the same for the Glock. Guess what happens? You're going to have mistakes like this. Inevitably. Inevitably. It doesn't matter how safe and how much training you have. Eventually, someone will make that mistake. That's that. All right? So I hope Styx sees this. I hope some people who, even Count Dankula, he was dunking on this officer. The memes have been fresh and really good. I'll be honest. Some of them are just fantastic. But we got to be realistic here. We have to not crucify somebody over something that is certainly a human enough mistake where every single one of the people who are criticizing, saying that calling this officer dumb, you are all susceptible to that. Have you ever played a game of Bop It and lost because you hit the wrong thing? Guess what? You're susceptible to making this exact mistake. Sorry. I don't understand why people armchair quarterback situations without putting themselves in that situation. It's very it's so easy to just say, oh yeah, that was a murder because a guy died and that shouldn't have happened, or this is dumb. How could somebody die? Yeah, in this situation, how do you confuse It's like, because stuff happens, guys. Under pressure, things happen. Human beings are not infallible. Police officers are not infallible. They will make mistakes, inevitably. And the only thing you can do to really protect yourself is not be this guy. So don't get the warrant out for your arrest in the first place. But mainly, it's when they're arresting you, maybe you're the wrong guy, whatever, don't fight. Don't cause a situation where now they're trying to tase you, because for every million times somebody gets tased, there is going to be that one time where the person's heart fails or the gun is out and not the taser, and you see exactly what happened here occur. You are not immune to that. Because you're righteously fleeing the police, you are not immune to the human mistakes that occur in these situations. I was in a car accident last year, and basically, I stopped at an intersection. Another person stopped. I went, and then when I got about halfway through the intersection, I got hit by this person. This person decided to power through. I guess they just didn't wait for me to clear the intersection, right? That sucks. I was pretty pissed off. But there's nothing I can do about that. Human beings make mistakes. And now when I'm at that intersection, I have to look over my shoulder, but I just have to accept that sometimes people are going to make mistakes, and they're going to hit your car, they're going to hurt you, they're going to whatever it is. And the only way I can mitigate that is try to eliminate the stress in those types of situations. Avoid avoid being this guy, right? And when you are this guy, avoid making it worse by trying to fight and flee, right? If you're right here, if you're in this guy's position, it doesn't matter how righteous you think it is. It doesn't matter how afraid you are or what your political beliefs are or whatever. You're right here. What is the correct decision? The correct decision, unless you're willing to live with the consequences of, I might get shot, is just, all right, let them cuff you. Go do what you got to do. You'll get an attorney. Basically, participate in the due process. Because if you don't, it doesn't matter that they're not supposed to kill me in this situation because I'm not doing anything threatening. I'm just fleeing, right? So they're only supposed to tase me, right? Yeah, true. So if that's what he's thinking in his head in terms of calculation wise, yeah, that makes sense. Except that things don't always work out. Why take that risk? Why take that risk? And if you do want to take that risk, then you just have to live with the consequences. And if you're somebody who has seen somebody take this risk and it has gone poorly for them, it's not a reason to burn your city down. It's not a reason to get upset. It's not a reason to mock even the people involved necessarily, because it's human beings. Okay, how many times have you opened your fridge and pulled out the orange juice when you meant to pull out the milk or something like that, right? And you sit on the counter and you're like, wait a minute, I pulled the wrong ingredients out. And you go and you switch it out, right? It's the same kind of mistake. And it's going to occur far more often when you're under pressure than when it does in your daily life anyway. So I guess that's it. I guess I have said it in as many ways as I can say it. I wish people had a little more common sense. I wish people would not take little excerpts from clips from news stories or articles with like lines of things that happened or explanations of the altercation, and not having actually seen the full original video of what occurred, and not thinking, how did they confuse their taser for their gun, and then not actually have any experience realizing that this is a taser and it points like a gun and it pulls a trigger like a gun. And not only is that similar, but also what happens under pressure. People make mistakes under pressure. And just thinking that you're just immune to that. You're just better. You're just better than these people involved with this because, you haven't shot anybody when you meant to tase them. Well, you've never been called upon to try to tase somebody under stress. It bothers me that people are so quick to make mountains out of things that, yes, this is a discussion. This is a battery of arms discussion. There's a lot to go on. And yes, there needs to be investigation of whether this is murder or manslaughter or negligence or something like that. Yes, there absolutely needs to be an investigation because someone has died and a mistake has occurred. That does not mean that there are people are guilty immediately. That does not mean that you, person on the internet who just hears about this happening, can suddenly cast judgment when you've not been in this situation. Some people have been this guy. Some people have been this guy. Some people have been the officer who actually ended up accidentally shooting this guy. Every single one of them are human beings. Every single one of them make mistakes under pressure. It is what happens. It's part of the human condition. And when you have something like a battery of arms that's the same on a Glock as it is on a taser, this type of mistake inevitably will occur at some point. Have the cost-benefit argument about that. I mean, if this is happening often enough, right, or if this is such an egregious thing for it to happen, that it must be avoided at much higher cost, let's say, because it's not all cost, but at a higher cost, then guess what? You got to change the design. You got to do something, but you have to have a discussion about this and not pretend that, oh, yeah, in that situation, I totally would have tased the guy instead of shot him, because I've never made a mistake with my hands in my entire life under pressure. It's annoying. It's annoying. I hope more people, I guess, see this message or at least talk to people who are police officers to explain what the hell's going on. It seems like cops are really easy to be like, well, not me. I wouldn't have done that. That's, because I'm special. And the officers who are telling you that, they're also full of shit, because they don't want you to be mad at them and think that, because they don't want to admit that basically, oh yeah, I could totally see that happening to me, because I'm a police officer and I'm in these situations. And if I screw up or am in an altercation where I'm not 100% paying attention, I could accidentally hurt somebody more than I intend to hurt them. But they're not. They a lot. It's hard to admit that, particularly in an environment where they'll say, "Well, you're just saying that. You're just saying that you're a human being who makes mistakes as an excuse to kill people, right?" Because that's the response. So then people are tempted to just say, "No, no, I couldn't have possibly made this mistake." You're full of crap. All of you are full of crap who say that this somehow this can't occur to you. No, it absolutely can, and I guess that's what I got to say about it. And for God's sake, people, do not use situations like this as an excuse to get on a high horse, to wax philosophical about race and all these other just stuff that has nothing to do with it, or burn down your city over this guy's death. This is not a situation. Even if this guy did not have a warrant and he was completely innocent, he starts to flee, right? And they pull the taser out and they shoot him accidentally because she thought she had the taser out. And this guy, maybe he didn't do anything wrong other than trying to flee. It's still not the kind of thing that says, oh my God, there's systemic problems. No, this is called the systemic problem of being a human being. So I think I've driven that home. I've probably gone on too long about it. But for God's sake, people, just slow down, review what's happening, and actually put yourself in these positions. And then you can think, what would I do in that situation differently? Because as for the officers, what would I do in that situation differently? I would hope that I have my taser out and not my pistol. I would hope that is something that a mistake I would not have made. But I'm not incapable of making that. I'm not certainly somebody who's immune to making that sort of mistake. And neither are you. If you're watching this and you're a human being, you are not immune to making that type of mistake. Period. I'll tell you what I am immune to. Doing what this guy did. Which is, they've stopped you. You're not getting away. They're putting handcuffs on you. And then you decide you're going to try to fight them and get in the car and expect something bad not to happen to you. I know I got enough self-control to make sure I'm not this guy. But every single one of you watching, you could be this guy or the officer who accidentally shot him. You're not special. So that's all. I hope I've driven the point home.